I'm betting that most of you have never considered just what it's like to put smart home equipment outside in minus 40-degree weather, and today I'm going to tell you exactly what happens to it. Hello automators, thanks for tuning in again. I'm Brian from Automate Your Life, and today I'm going to take the frustration out of automation by helping you understand just what happens when you get your smart home gear into these intensely harsh environments. And when I talk about this, I hope what you actually glean is just how tough some of these products are, and you can take your smart home gear and do different things with them. So there are some products I'm going to identify today that you can take and put in extremely difficult situations and have them work for you. You're also going to hear, I think, a couple of very interesting stories, and you'll learn about some of these devices in very specific ways. So this is a very interesting video to me, and I'd been waiting about a year for a week like this, and that's exactly what it was. It was almost a week of minus 30 to minus 40 degrees Celsius weather here in Alberta. And when I read this kind of coming back from CES, that this is what I was walking into, I was actually a little bit excited, terrified a little bit about my car ever starting, but a little bit excited because then I could go and deploy some more things in an unheated garage and outdoors as well, just to see what happened. So the first thing I want to talk about actually is the 360 video doorbell that I brought onto the channel just a little while ago. And this was a device I didn't have a lot of faith in when I brought it in. I wanted to show you guys a video doorbell that just wasn't going to perform and why you kind of step up. But the fact of the matter is I've been fairly impressed with this device. It's been highly reliable, and through this time period of minus 30 to minus 40 wind and snow and everything we had, this thing was perfect. I still can't believe it actually. It did everything it was supposed to. The battery indicator did drop a little bit, but not a ton, and that's kind of expected in that cold of an environment. You would expect a battery to look like it's lower and then come back after charge. And I haven't even had to charge that device as of yet, and it worked flawlessly. Nothing broke all the way through that time period. And speaking of batteries, this is what you can expect from most of your devices. I reached out to Glenn actually. He's been a long-time subscriber. He lives in the area and he had to go through this same weather, and he has a Tesla. And what happened to his Tesla was significant range reduction because that's a electric motor with battery cars. So that's what he expected. Of course, it started every time, but it's lower power, or it's got lower capacity in the batteries basically, and so you're given a lower range. They just don't perform the same. So that's what you can expect from your devices that go outside in those kinds of cold conditions. Because I was able to see this coming, I took a number of devices outside and then put some devices into my garage as well. So I took a whole range of smart home sensors from Samsung SmartThings outdoors, put them outdoors. So I put a leak sensor in my garage. It was obviously going to think there was always a leak with the moisture on the ground, but so I couldn't put it outside, but I put it in the garage in the minus 20 to minus 30 that I had in there. It performed reliably, no change in the battery. I had a contact sensor on my garage door that was easily in the minus 30 range. No change whatsoever, worked perfectly every time that garage door opened and closed, although the garage door eventually broke in that kind of a cold condition. Separate story. The motion sensor worked fine. I put that outdoors on my front step, worked totally fine. So no real reductions in the batteries either. As I brought them back into my home, they seemed to warm up. Everything remained perfect. Now the smart plugs, I put a Zigbee smart plug from SmartThings, and that you can hear something actually closing. You can actually hear a contact or a switch, I'm not sure which it is, inside there opening and closing, and I thought that might have a problem. No problem throughout, and neither with my outdoor smart plug, which is actually rated only to minus 20. So that's an iHome smart plug. Totally worked all throughout. I left my Christmas lights out there because when it's that cold, I'm not changing it. And it worked the entire time. Now, what's interesting about that is the rating. So it's only rated to -20, and it was -40. And this was something that actually we saw with a gentleman named Brett Miller. And I reached out to Brett as soon as he sent this out to Google Nest on Twitter. He actually showed his Nest Hello camera had turned pink, and it was about 3/4 of the way across his picture. It was pink, and then there was about a quarter left. And as soon as he sent it, I reached out and I said, hey, you probably don't want to tell him that it's -40, because that's outside of the specifications. And that's what you will find with most of the devices, that even the ones that say they're outdoor rated, they're about -20 rated. We just haven't seen that move to -40. So right away, Google said, hey, that's outside of specifications. This can happen, but just wait. And I think there was some confusion around why he would just wait. But what had actually happened here, and this is very common on smart home cameras, and another reason why I was so impressed with the 360 is the IR filter gets stuck. So it's trying to get out of the way, or it's trying to put that IR filter on, and basically it gets stuck, and then your pictures and your video look pink. So this is something that can happen to you. Now, he had it happen on a Nest Hello, and it did go away once the temperatures dropped back down. But he also had an outdoor camera, an outdoor Nest Cam, that survived, performed perfectly, never changed. So you can have this on certain cameras, even from the same brand. And I think what I'll tell you here is the outdoor camera is just better sealed than the Nest Hello in general, and you're less likely to have any humidity in that device, and that's probably what stopped that from working in that case. Inside of my garage, I had a Miros garage door opener, and so did Glenn, and both of those continued to perform admirably. I stuck some Wise cams out and a Sim cam, which actually does the rotating, and I thought if I put that outside in the -40, it's going to break for sure. But I put it in the garage at that -20 to -30 range. It performed perfectly all the way through, never changed. Same with my Wise cams, and same with Glenn's Wise cams. They performed all the way through. So everything in the garage, actually, because there's no real humidity and there's no real massive change in temperature really quickly, those devices stayed absolutely perfect. And I can include smart bulbs in that. I put Philips Hue outside, I put Samsung SmartThing bulbs outside, and I had Sansi smart bulbs actually outside as well, and all of those performed perfectly, -40 all the way through. There was no change in the lighting capability, and there was no change in connectivity. So all of those performed perfectly as well. So, and you might be sitting here waiting for me to talk about something that went catastrophically wrong. The only thing that went catastrophically wrong was my physical garage door actually broke. And I mean, that's kind of to be expected when you have that much ice and that much cold. So there was nothing from a smart home perspective. I didn't go put any crazy things like smart displays outside. Those aren't going to work. But everything else, if it's relatively well sealed, and I think that's the important component here, the cold rating is not going to be, in a lot of cases, a realistic thing for these devices. They're just not going to have tested them outside in those kinds of conditions in a lot of cases. Now, what you will find is if they're not well sealed, then you are going to get the ingress of snow, and then therefore humidity when it warms up a little bit and you get water in there, and then that's when things are going to start going wrong. So as long as they're relatively well sealed, I think you can put almost every one of these devices outside, deal with the loss of battery life that comes with being outside in those kinds of cold conditions, and otherwise enjoy your smart home products outdoors. So I hope this has been a pretty interesting story for you. I mean, I don't have a lot of visuals to show you other than some of the devices, and quite frankly, I didn't want to be outside with my cameras during these times, but this is what is realistic with your smart home gear. You can take it outside, you can do more with it. Now, the flip side of this is heat, and I think that's an entirely different discussion that we will have as we go here on the channel. Clearly, I'm not in that kind of a location, so I'm going to have to build this information from you guys. So I'd love to hear your stories down below in the description. What are your stories with putting your smart home gear outside and in both cold and heat situations? Otherwise, make sure you subscribe to Automate Your Life, guys. We do these kinds of tutorials and great deep learnings about your smart home gear all the time. Otherwise, of course, thanks for watching, and don't hate, automate.